All right, let's talk about ad group organization. You know about keywords, you know about match types, but where do these keywords actually live? They live in ad groups, and how you organize these ad groups is critical. In this video, I'm going to walk you through my exact rules of thumbs for organizing ad groups to get the best results possible for a home service business. If you're new here, my name is Tyler Davis, the founder of Lead Liftoff, and we help home service businesses scale with ads. And if you've been here before, welcome back. Let's get right into the video. So the keywords in the ad groups are really the foundation of every Google Ads campaign. This determines what keywords you're selecting to target and what ads you will serve those keywords. It's probably the most important part of any ad campaign on Google you can do. And getting this right is kind of a daunting task for a lot of people because there's no hard set rules about how to do it. So I'm going to walk you through my steps when determining what ad groups I should split my keywords up into. So the first step, or what I'm going to call the first layer, let's say layer 1, is going to be splitting them up by service category. So what this means is basically just by different service offerings you have. And this is the most simple layer, but even in here, there's some stretch of the imagination you can do about what defines a new service category or not. And something I want to make sure that you just kind of keep in mind throughout this whole process is that we want to create different ad groups only when the intent of that search is different enough so that the ad needs to be different or the ad copy needs to be different because it'll resonate better with the customer. Now you can take this to the extreme where you end up with single keyword ad groups or SCAGs. You might have heard them be called that before, but those aren't really effective anymore. They used to be more effective in the past, but nowadays we want to feed similar themes to the same ad group. So key point, ad groups should be structured by search intent. And one of the easiest ways to split that up is by the service category, and that's where we're going to start. So for example, if you're a pest control company, then you might have different service categories depending on the type of pest it is, right? So you might have keywords like bat removal or rat removal or spiders or ants or maybe like larger rodents like raccoons. All of these things, all of these terms that you want to bid on, these would all be their own ad group because they're significantly different on the search intent. If I'm a customer and I'm searching for spider removal and I get an ad that's generic and just says pest control, or I get an ad that says spider removal specifically right under it, I'm going to click the spider one because it's more closely related to what I'm actually looking for. Now you can go too far with this. Now I picked pest control because it's pretty clear the different service categories. Now let's say I'm doing ant removal. I'm doing ants versus red ants. Well, you don't need a different ad group for red ants. It's close enough. It's similar enough that you don't need to do that because the intent is the same. And a lot of the times spiders and ants can even go together. You know, the smaller bugs can even go together in ad groups. It's really up to you how much you want to split it up. But ultimately, the most important part is keeping search intent the same. So what that means for variations of this, so let's focus on bat removal. Residential bat removals we're going to focus on as our ad group that we're writing keywords for. So the keywords that I would include in this that I don't think need another ad group are really anything that involves bats. So bat removal service, bat removal company. You could even do bat removal near me, pest control, bat removal, and anything that an ad advertising bat removal would resonate with. Now, a point of contention I see a lot of the time too on ad groups is geo-based ad groups. And by geo, I mean geography or location-based. So specifically this bat removal near me one here, this is where things can get a little wishy-washy, where some people will recommend doing specific city-based ones. So let's say, you have 5 different cities that you service and you put all of them in here. Bat removal Omaha, bat removal Lincoln, bat removal Council Bluffs, bat removal whatever. And a lot of times that does make sense depending on how big the population is. So this will kind of just bring me into my second layer of this. So once we go first, layer number 1. So we have all of our different types of pest control that we do that people actually search for and there's keyword volume for. Maybe it's 10 different things. And we have all of our search terms within there that all relate to that service. Layer 2, actually one more note before I go to layer 2. I realize that pest control probably isn't the best example of what I'm about to talk about here, but it's when it's the same service, but a different way of treating that service. So for example, in the HVAC space, it might be AC maintenance, AC repair, AC tune-up, AC installation. In that scenario, you can typically split it into 2 different ad groups just depending on intent. Like somebody's more likely to be looking for repair and replacement in the same thing as maintenance and tune-up would be in its own category as well. So it's not always the product itself. Sometimes the type of service that they're looking for is also slightly different. So hopefully that makes sense, that AC repair and AC tune-up should actually be two different ad groups a lot of the time because the intent is different, even though they're both about your AC unit getting improved. Okay, now to layer 2, location-based. So when do you break out a city or a location into its own special ad group? When do I do bat removal Omaha? Well, the answer is actually pretty simple, and it's just when there's enough monthly search volume that it makes sense to do this. And you find this data in the Google Keyword Planner. Let me choose an example. One of the clients I have, they are in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and the two major areas they service is Tuscaloosa and Birmingham. If you're not familiar with the area, these are two cities that are about 30 minutes apart from each other. And in between and surrounding these two cities are obviously a bunch of sub-neighborhoods and sub-cities that we probably would even still want to use as keywords in our campaigns. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but let's just say that there's some sub-cities around here called like Springfield, because everywhere's got a Springfield. And let's do one more, Bellevue. There's a lot of Bellevues as well. So let's pretend that these are two smaller cities in the area that are also around Tuscaloosa and Birmingham that this client also services. Well, when you look at the search volume from Google's Keyword Planner, you'll see that pretty clearly only Tuscaloosa and Birmingham have high enough search volume that it's even worth splitting out to its own ad group. It's usually only major metro areas that have high enough search volume. So how you would approach this is, let's say you have your main ad group for bat removal, and within here you have your main term. I'm just going to do these quotes for the main term, which in this case is bat removal, and then you have your different geos each here, geo being geography. So geo 1, geo 2, geo 3, these are all different location names. What you would do is then peel out the winner. So let's say that geo 2 is the one that deserves its own ad group, and then you make the ad group bat removal geo 2, which in this case let's say is Birmingham, and then you just put bat removal Birmingham in here. That way, when somebody's searching for bat removal in Birmingham, they get the Birmingham specific ad group, which is almost exactly the same as the standard one, but the copy's a little different in the ad, where it just specifically calls out the location name, because the location name is important to the searcher in this scenario. And you don't have to do this for every single ad group. So let's say in the pest control scenario, we have 10 ad groups and we're going to pull out one geo ad group from this. So we have 10 pest control ad groups, and then we have one location that we want to pull out. We don't necessarily need to make now 20 ad groups. Like, we don't need to make a Birmingham version for each of the main ad groups. You can tend to kind of consolidate this, and sometimes you might only do one. Sometimes it might just be Birmingham pest control that you do. It all depends on the search terms, because you really don't want to make an ad group that's going to get zero search volume anyways. It's just a waste of impressions and budget a lot of the time. So just use your geo ad groups for your major categories of ad groups. And then on your other ones, you can leave that geo name still in there. So let's say we're not going to pull out bird removal, if they even do that. Let's say we're not going to pull out bird removal as its own ad group. We would leave Birmingham in here. Leave it in there, because somebody might search for bird removal Birmingham and we still want that ad group to show up. Another good thing you can also do, just to double check yourself, is in the ad group that you pulled the geo out of, you could add a negative keyword in here for the geo name. So you could do negative Birmingham in this original one, just to really force Google to show this ad group. Okay, to recap so far, we've split our ad groups by service and by search intent primarily. Remember, number one thing is going to be this right here. Ad groups should be structured by search intent. So they're split up by service depending on search intent. So if they have AC repair and AC tune-up, those are two separate ones, even though it's the same kind of service. And then from there, if we have locations, right, we're including all the location keywords in those ad groups already. If we have a location around us that's big enough to warrant its own ad group, we peel those out of the ad groups that we think are significant enough to deserve a peel out. We make our own. So we went from 10 to maybe 15 ad groups now. And from here, you've done 95% of the work. I just want to kind of go over some more cleanup type things that make sure that you're not getting too into the weeds about this, because this process makes sense. This process is important, but there's ways that people get way too into the weeds and they can actually end up hurting the account because they go down what I call the keyword rabbit hole. So I'm going to write this out because it's important, where they're going through and they're writing every variation of a keyword they could possibly think of. And this is absolutely not necessary. So let's keep using the same example. If we have a first keyword of bat removal, let's actually use bat removal company as our keyword. You do not need to add these bat removal companies, plural. You do not need to do that. Google is smart enough to know that these are the same things. Do not put plural in your search terms. Another thing you don't need to do is you don't need to mix up the terms. It makes sense more in different examples where it's like this or that or this and that, but you don't need to do something like this where it's like company bat removal. Google is smart enough to swap the terms out in the order that they're written in. And one more thing I want to mention that you don't need is spelling differences. So you don't need something like bat remove company, or sometimes when people put like dashes in specific words like pickup, you can have or have not have the dash. It doesn't really matter. The general idea is what's important, and you can actually look at this in the keyword planner. If you have two terms that you're not sure if you need both in there, put them into the keyword planner together, and if they have the same stats across the board, that's an indication that Google sees these as the same thing. So you don't need duplicates. It actually makes it harder to optimize the account, and it can negatively affect the campaign. All right, that's all I've got for you guys today. If you found this helpful, please leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel. And if you want us to help run your ads for you, click that first link in the description to apply to work with us. All right, I'll see you in the next video.